We are here in Indianapolis, site of the Scouting Combine, home of the Colts, and the head coach of the local NFL team joins us now, entering year 3. Isn't that weird, do you think? Because it's got to be just a blur for you, right? You waited so long to get that job, but here comes year 3 for Frank Reich. Great to see you, and welcome back to the set.
Well, thanks, Mike. It is a blur, but it's life in the NFL, right? I mean, it's all good, and it's exciting this time of year, getting back in the groove.
And it seems like so much of the job is about dealing with the unexpected, dealing with adversity, and no one dealt with more than you last year. To find out a week and a half before the start of the season, your starting quarterback isn't going to be playing for you anymore, and you got to come up with a plan B right away, and you handled it as well as anyone ever could.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it was a shock to all of us, but that's life. I mean, it's just amplified because of the spotlight that we're in and the type of player that Andrew was. So I thought we did handle it very well. That was a credit to our players, the locker room, to be able to handle that, particularly a credit to Jacoby for how he handled it.
Jim Irsay, the owner of the team, had a press conference on Sunday, and he was talking for a bit about Andrew Luck. And it was kind of vague as to whether he thought there's a chance Andrew Luck could come walking back through the door. Do you have any sense that he's going to, after a year away or maybe after 2 years away, decide, you know what, I'm ready to do this again?
Yeah, I really, no, as far as my mind is, he's a friend. I talk to him occasionally. We communicate. I sense none of that. We don't talk about that. I think he's retired. I think it's normal course of business as we go, and I don't think there's any other way to approach it.
When you talk to him, do you listen for any clues? Like, like, oh, yeah, gee, I really miss being at my locker. I miss Saturdays before game. Anything he said that made you think, you never know how the world's going to play out here?
No, he's like any other ex-player. Any ex-player, you're always going to miss your buddies in the locker room. That's normal. So I don't read into that the clue that, hey, he wants to come back. He's just a good friend, and like hanging out with him occasionally. We're all busy, so I'm not reading anything into those comments.
Did you sense that it was coming? No one else did. Did you have an inkling, and when did you have the inkling that it may head this way for Andrew Luck?
I really didn't. I mean, I didn't know until, like everybody, a week. I knew a couple days before everybody else, a week before. No inkling. I think everybody knows that Andrew is a unique guy and is wired a little bit different. It's part of what makes him the player that he is. So, in essence, if this was going to happen to someone, it would happen with someone of his personality, who he's a team guy. The hoopla and all that stuff, we all know that wasn't the most important thing to him. So, in that respect, not a surprise, but in the moment, a big surprise.
Jacoby Brissett comes in, leads the team to a 5-2 record. He had the knee injury against the Steelers, missed a little time, felt like he was never quite the same after that. And what I've detected in the aftermath of the season, and this is kind of an organizational vibe, it's almost ambivalence. Now, you haven't been ambivalent, but Chris Ballard's comments, Jim Irsay's comments, like, where do you stand right now with Jacoby Brissett, his role as your starter, and this question of whether or not, when free agency rolls around or the draft rolls around, there's going to be another quarterback that could potentially take over the job?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, as you said, there's nothing to be ambivalent about. He's our guy. And in this league, it's not many guys have the luxury of saying, hey, I have job security locked. I don't have to ever worry about any competition. That's just not real life in the NFL. So Jacoby understands that. He knows he has to earn everything, and he does. And so, we'll take it a day at a time. Chris and I talking all the time. How do we make this team better? Every position gets evaluated. Every player gets evaluated.
Jim Irsay said the other day all options are on the table. How involved will you be as coach of the team in evaluating the options with Chris Ballard and making a decision on whether or not there's a free agent who's pursued, whether or not there's a guy that you try to trade for, whether or not there's a guy that you target in the draft? How much of that question are you involved in resolving?
Yeah, every aspect of every decision at every level, wearing it out till it can't be wore out anymore. And especially, like Mr. Irsay said the other day, when it comes to the quarterback position, if there's a road that ever gets traveled down, that's a road that will be Mr. Irsay, Chris, and myself.
Free agency's been around in its current form since 1993, 94, and I can't remember a year where there were this many, like quarterbacks never move. Like, okay, yeah, there's free agents, but that applies to everybody but quarterbacks. Quarterbacks stay put. I've never seen a year like this with so many guys who are available or could be available via trade, release, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's exciting for the league. I mean, it's exciting for media, fans. You know, how's this all going to play out? Not every guy's the right fit for every team, but you know, every club will do the same thing that we're doing. Evaluate what's the right fit. How does it fit into the long-term plans? Because one thing here with the Colts is, you know, when Chris and I and Mr. Irsay sit down and talk, there's a very distinct way we're building. And Mr. Irsay is incredibly supportive and has them, you know, we'll spend the money, but we want to build through the draft. We want to build inside out. We want to re-sign our own guys and then be very selective about those guys we pursue.
You know, I'd never thought about this angle, Coach, but at some point the dust is going to settle on this quarterback carousel, and you're going to be looking at your schedule, and you're going to have some teams with new quarterbacks, and all of a sudden, like, you know, a guy's been in the system for 20 years, and here he is with this new coach, and who says, and you're not going to know how to plan for those games. And I don't know how many. I mean, we don't know until the schedule comes out and how this all resolves. But you can have a bunch of games that have a much different complexion because of a quarterback change that was made.
Yeah, you're right, because the quarterback is such a central cog to the offensive wheel. So that's something you adapt to as you go. Now, a lot of these guys have a track record of what they do and what they like to do, so you factor all that into it.
You know, it looks like we're heading towards 17 regular season games. Any thoughts on, you know, you were a player. You've seen the wear and tear. You see the wear and tear on your guys now. Do you think your guys can suit up for another regular season game with the promise of postseason? Ideally, can they put in that extra regular season game and still, you know, be okay overall?
You know, I mean, I certainly understand where the player's perspective and the wear and tear of the season. But, you know, I think today players more so than ever do a great job of taking care of themselves. I honestly don't delve into that CBA issue very far, right? I mean, that's out of my control. Right. We've all given our 2 cents where we've been asked to give our 2 cents. I trust the decisions that are made. They tell us 17, we're good to go, and we'll adjust accordingly.
I've heard from a couple other coaches, hey, we're talking about players getting another game check for 17 games. Do we get another game check too?
That's funny.
No comment.
No comment.
How about expanded playoffs? I haven't heard any of the coaches complain about that because, hey, you get to the playoffs.
No, you won't hear me complain about that either. I think that's exciting. I think the fans would want that. Get in the tournament. That's what we all talk about. Get in the tournament. Get a chance to win a championship.
Overall, your expectations for this season. I know it's so early and there's so much that needs to be done, and the ultimate appearance of the team and the composition of the team is going to be so different than it is now. But going into this year, what are you hoping for year 3 for Frank Reich and the Colts?
Well, we talk about 2 primary things. Yeah, we talk about goals, and you know, number 1 goal always, like every other head coach that you would have right here, is going to say, hey, we got to win our division. We're in a very, you know, the AFC South is now a very strong division. So we're very competitive in that division. We need to win our division. That would be goal number 1. But as far as expectations, really what we talk about is the expectations of the process, the locker room, the culture, right? We think if we get those things right, the wins will come.
You know, in Jacksonville, Nick Foles is there, Super Bowl 52 MVP. You know that very well. How surprised were you that it maybe didn't click for him the way that people thought it would his first year with the team?
I was surprised. I mean, obviously, I think the world of Nick. With the experience we have together, I think he's a unique player. He's had an unbelievable career. So, yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked. I mean, hats off to Gardner Minshew. He did a really good job and is an exciting young player. And the whole Minshew mania was fun for the league and good for Jacksonville. But Nick Foles is a proven commodity. I'm sure he's not done yet.
And the thing about Nick that I really respect, if they decide to go with Gardner Minshew this year, Nick Foles will not complain. Privately, publicly, anywhere. He'll accept his role, and he'll do everything he can to make Gardner Minshew the best quarterback he can, while also being ready to come in and do what needs to be done if Gardner Minshew gets injured or isn't effective and Nick needs to play. And I mean, that, you know, it's got to, I mean, you've been there and you've done that as a player. That's got to be so hard to do. You got to be able to just not just check your ego at the door. You got to rip it out of your body and throw it away to do that role the way that Nick does it.
There's no doubt, but I also think that's the secret sauce to Nick Foles and why he is so great in those big moments. Because he's not tied in, he's not being ripped apart on the inside like everybody else is. I mean, there's something unique about him as a competitor. Believe me, I saw it from the inside out now. This guy is a fierce competitor, but he just handles it slightly different.
Well, there's something unique about Frank Reich as a head coach. It's fun to watch your teams play. It's great to see what you've done, and it was inspiring to see you work through so much adversity last year. I know the season didn't end the way you wanted it to, but I think there's plenty of positive to draw from it. And we look forward to seeing what happens for you in 2020. There he is, Frank Reich, head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.